In today's video, we're going to take a close look at Darkest Doom. We'll tell you everything we like, what we didn't like, and we'll make sure that by the end of this video you'll have all the information you need to decide whether this is a game that you and your group would enjoy. But before we get into that, let's first take a very quick look at the gameplay. Darkest Doom is a competitive strategy game with RPG elements for 1 to 4 players, set in the dark fantasy world inspired by 17th century Europe and inhabited by anthropomorphic animals. The players are trying to survive the darkness for up to 8 days, but they also compete with each other in the meantime, as everyone is trying to complete their own goals. During the game, the players, controlling their guardians, move around the map, activating location actions, completing quests, completing order achievements, and fighting other guardians or monsters, all in an attempt to pursue their goals and survive the darkness. The darkness is spread by the game through event cards that spawn dark pools on various locations on the map, as well as monsters that work against the Guardians. The game is played over a maximum of 8 rounds. Each round consists of a dawn and a nightfall phase. During both phases, players take turns performing actions, while at nightfall, the creatures and darkness also take their turns. There are 4 different victory conditions in the game. The first requires you to have the most fame at the end of the 8th round, although the game doesn't always reach that point. There are 3 other ways a player can win before the 8th round ends. One is to gather certain relics and pass a check whose difficulty depends on how much the game has progressed. Another way is to fight the High Priestess, which requires preparation for a very difficult combat check. Finally, if the darkness spreads too much, all players may simultaneously lose the game, unless one of them has been absorbed by the darkness, aligning themselves with it. In that case, if the darkness wins, that player wins as well. So let's start with the components of the game. We do have a very fast unboxing video and a very detailed components overview video, which you can find through the description. But for the sake of this video, let's just cover the basics. First off, we very much enjoyed the artwork. The dark look of the game matches the theme perfectly and everything seems cohesive on the table. The game also comes with double-layered player boards, which you know we enjoy very much. It has a lot of cards that are not very luxurious, but not flimsy either. Lots of tokens, but most importantly, a bunch of very detailed and very nice miniatures, which are probably the highlight of the components. The box also comes with a basic insert that's not fancy, but it includes everything in a nice way that helps set up and tear down very much. That brings us to our next topic, which is the setup and tear down time of the game. We feel that it is a game that's very simple to set up. It takes some time to shuffle the various decks, but it's not something convoluted or complicated, especially when we compare it to the overall duration of the game. We don't feel that the setup time would keep anyone from playing it. Similarly, putting the game back in the box after you're done playing only takes a few minutes. The actual duration of the game is quite a lot, especially when playing with 3 or 4 players. It won't usually run down to the end of the 8th round, but if it does, we are talking about 8 rounds with both dawn and nightfall phases, and both these phases include player turns. As you can imagine, that's a lot of time and a lot of downtime in between turns. With the other 3 victory conditions though, it's very likely that the game will end way before that, and with experienced players, it's interesting to keep an eye on what everyone else is doing, plan around that, and make sure they don't achieve their goals. On the other hand, while the game runs quite long with a lot of players, it's also probably best played at higher player counts. That's where all the action happens. There's a lot of interaction, the game balances itself better with a lot of players, and it is meant to be enjoyed with all 4 guardians present on the board. And since I mentioned the game balance, I feel that we have to comment on that, both because of the randomness that is included in the game and because of the asymmetric powers and statistics of the 4 guardians. We definitely didn't feel that all 4 of them are equally strong, and while we didn't play enough to have stats and analytics, we felt that choosing certain guardians would give us an edge at winning the game. Other than that, the game includes a lot of random elements that can go either way and that are out of the control of the players. Especially when playing with 2 or even 3 players, something like that can really favor or mess with one of them specifically. For example, the quest cards may give you a quest that's right next to your location or all the way on the other side of the map. Of course, there are ways to teleport there, but it's a huge difference between spending 1 or 6 actions to get to that quest. Since you can only get 1 quest at the beginning of each round, it's very important if you're forced to spend your whole round finishing that specific quest. Quests are also the only or the main way to get relics, which are very important for the victory conditions, which means that you get into the cycle of falling behind if you need your whole round just to fulfill a quest. Order achievement cards work in a very similar way but are not as important, so they didn't feel as impactful. Also, the way the event works and how the monsters may attack a certain player or a certain temple, a citadel, this can set a player way far behind or way far ahead very early in the game. There is no way to predict or prepare for those. It's just a matter of luck. Finally, there are the dice rolls, but those can be manipulated in various ways, whether it's the fate die that can be manipulated through coins or the crimson fate dice that can be manipulated through cards. In any case, you do have some control over those. Just keep in mind that it is not a purely strategic game. It is one that includes luck and randomness. Now, the positive side to all of that is that they also introduce a lot of variety to the game. Exactly because there are so many decks of cards, like the quests, the order achievements, the event cards, the monster activation tokens, the citadel supply cards. All of them introduce variety and make every game feel different. Together with the 4 victory conditions and the 4 asymmetric guardians, as you can imagine, every time you play the game, you follow a different path. The different available paths to victory also get affected by the guardian you play, because they all start with different stats and a different special ability. They all kind of favor different victory conditions, since they are stronger at different things, and those things affect which victory conditions you can pursue easier. That, together with the fact that you can advance your character throughout the game through the quests, makes it a very interesting and fun process. While we didn't necessarily enjoy all the guardians equally, we definitely enjoyed the fact that they are different from each other. Now, we feel that the real problem with the game, unfortunately, is the rulebook. It is a rulebook that is not easy to read for the first time, and it's certainly not easy to find information afterwards as you play the game and have questions come up. It's sad really, because the game itself is quite simple, and it would have been much simpler if the rulebook wasn't that complicated. The player rates are not great either, so you have to push through that initial touch with the game and its rules until you figure out exactly how to play. The upside to that is that if one person is willing to do that and they figure out how to play, it's a game that's very easy to teach to others. What we did like about the rulebook is the little introduction about all the characters we see in the game and the 2-page comic that it includes. We always enjoy games that focus on the theme, and these entries show some love for the lore, the background, and the story that's hiding behind a strategy game. Especially in games like these that include RPG elements, we like it when they go that extra mile and introduce the theme to the players before they start playing. Other than the rules, we feel that the game would benefit a lot from more interesting location actions. Each terrain type of each location on the map has a different effect or action that you can take once you enter that area. This sounded very interesting on paper. It turns out though that most of the location actions are either not interesting enough or are very situational. You can't take them all the time. So you end up simply moving around the map, completing quests and doing nothing in between. Especially if you finish a quest early and you have leftover actions, you feel like there is nothing to do with them apart from moving to a different location. The problem is that since you don't have your next quest, you don't know where you want to go next, and it feels like a waste to just move to a random direction without knowing if this will help you in the long run. It may sound okay to just don't do an action, but if it's one of the 3 you have for your whole turn, it feels like a lot. This problem would be solved if the location actions were more interesting and you actually had something to do with your leftover actions. And with that, I feel that we've covered everything we wanted to say about the game. We tried to cover the positives, the negatives, and hopefully you have all the information you need to see if it is a game that you and your group would enjoy. If you want to learn more about the game, check the links below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so that you get notified whenever we upload a new one. I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, bye.